we've done this, the meat eaters have far outnumbered the vegetarians. And then the third one is the genesis for this whole concept of challenging debate squads is that nobody in animal sciences would debate us. So everywhere I would go, we would challenge the animal sciences department because they're the people with the vested interest who it would make sense to actually be on the opposing side. And they consistently, categorically refused. And we've been really pleasantly surprised by debate teams, all over the country in their interest in debating something that has such strong practical applications. So, yeah, bravo. Thanks, guys.
All right. I have a question for either one of you, but I also have a question for you. So you mentioned you were vegan, right?
Yeah.
So I can get a lot of reasons for why vegetarianism could be ethical, and I definitely understand why industrialized or anti-industrialized veganism could be ethical. But if it's not industrialized, there's not really any reason, in my opinion, why veganism should occur. Because, let's see, well, eggs and milk don't require animals to die. And these animals have been evolved over a long period of time with us to form a mutualistic relationship between the two of us. That's industrialized. I'm not meaning that. I'm meaning like small pastoral chickens on a farm or in like your backyard or those kind of situations. The mutualistic relationship we formed over time has allowed both species to prosper. We've been protecting the species and helping them reproduce themselves and carry on their genes, and keeping a pretty happy life when it's not like that. And they've been pretty fine off of that, and we've been getting eggs and milk and whatnot from them at the same time. And if we were to stop consuming milk and eggs from these species, they really wouldn't survive on their own. If you let a flock of chickens go off to the woods, they would all get killed pretty fast. And they're not really all too likely to evolve back into an older form of chickens that fast. So.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hear what you're saying and know that there's a strong support for your position. The reality is that the environmental and global poverty arguments become stronger when you remove intensification from the equation. Like, it actually takes more resources to raise so-called happy meat. The other thing to say about that is the Sunday New York Times had a pretty interesting large piece about the fact that the slaughterhouses are the same. The animals are going to the same slaughterhouses, sometimes 10, 12, 14 hours to slaughterhouses, some of which have been closed down because of cruelty complaints. So, I mean, I really do wonder whether that is viable even from a standpoint of compassion. Is it exponentially better? Sure, it's exponentially better. But I would go back to, you have a choice to make. Do you want to cause an animal to suffer or not cause an animal to suffer? And I grew up, I said Minnesota and Oklahoma. So I can tell you that even in the best case scenarios, there's an awful lot of suffering that goes into it. Even people like Joel Salatin, who was glorified by Michael Pollan, go check it out. His pigs still have their teeth ripped out. Felony cruelty to animals. If you did that to a dog or a cat, they're still castrated without pain relief. Their ears are mutilated. The chickens who lay eggs still have their beaks seared off. The male baby chicks are still tossed alive into grinders when they're a day old. An awful lot of hideousness goes on, and according to Pollan, that's the best of the best. So, I mean, I really do think we can do better.
Are you saying all this happened on Joel Salatin's polyface farm?
Yeah.
Was not aware of that.
I mean, it's once the animals are there, and I mean, he is right when he says he's doing the best he can and he's trying to, improve standards. But once the animals are there, they lead an okay life. I mean, I think certainly a heck of a lot better life than animals who are intensively reared. But even looking at the way that his egg-laying hens, I mean, they have about, this 9. He's got about 30 hens with about this much space. Are they outdoor breathing fresh air? Yeah. But, I mean, chickens would go long distances. Chickens want to dust bathe. They want to perch. They don't get to do any of that. And at a fraction of their natural lifespan, they're shipped to, well, I guess Joel's chickens are still conscious and they're dumped into little buckets and their throats are slit. His pigs and cattle are shipped many hours to slaughterhouses that are extraordinarily unpleasant places.
Are you changing the tape or?
No.
I had a lot of questions, but I'll stick with one. So I was curious about your response about Monsanto, because why is it the response about Monsanto you ought to avoid eating Monsanto products because they do all these bad sorts of things? why is it in the context of Monsanto the response is to look to political institutions to try and change the rules surrounding that, and then that's not the response here where, I mean, for instance, you pointed out it's felony and cruelty to animals. Why not fight to make it actually a felony and prosecute these people who are doing this stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Or is
No,
that
I definitely think you should do both. I mean, my wife and I do not eat Monsanto products. We eat exclusively organic tomatoes and potatoes, or from our farmers market, to make sure that we're not buying Monsanto products. And I definitely think, you know, for each of us as individuals, we should not eat. I mean, if you're eating non-organic potatoes and tomatoes, you're probably getting Monsanto, and you should stop. But I also think there are bigger political issues that we should be addressing, both on the farm animal front and on the Monsanto front.
So I guess one quick follow-up to that a little bit. Why is advocating vegetarianism you think more effective than sort of political action to try and reform the way meat is produced?
Well, I think we need to do both. Although I would say that, I mean, you look at something like the UC Santa Cruz, they've got the Humane Society of the United States and the Banana Slugs for Animals are fighting at UC Santa Cruz just to get cage-free eggs. Now, cage-free is far from cruelty-free, as CHSUS would tell you. It's a heck of a lot better. I mean, this is 95% of egg production. This is UC Santa Cruz egg production. So fighting to change that is definitely a move in the right direction, but it's still pretty abusive, the way that even cage-free hens are treated. I do think you need to do both.
If I could actually say something about Monsanto Corporation here. They are creating all these genetically modified products, and some of them have ramifications that seem to be more towards human rights and legal issues than towards actual issues with food supply. But this type of progress and this type of giant corporate involvement in the food project is not inherently bad. They're also developing plants that grow on much less water and require and sap much less nutrients out of the soil that have a lot of promising potential for solving the world's food problem.
Well, I mean, that's what they keep saying. I mean, that's you know, the Green Revolution. That's what they've been saying since the 70s. So far, I mean, the pharmaceuticals make similar arguments about their altruistic intentions vis-a-vis drug development. But so far, I don't think we've seen any real indication of pharmaceutical benevolence or Monsanto benevolence. I'd love to see it.
Well, I mean, their products yield higher yields, higher crop yields. Otherwise, why would farmers use them to begin with? Right? I mean, they have this. Don't buy this.
There are no agricultural activists in the developing world who are happy with Monsanto. So, I mean, you oftentimes know what the correct position is by the people who are most altruistic and what their position is.
Right, well, yeah, I agree with the economic and the environmental issues for not eating meat. But from an ethical standpoint, I'm just kind of curious as to why the plants that vegetarians eat have the same rights as animals. And you kind of mutilate them when you eat them, like beans and seeds and things that humans eat. You are actually inhibiting the life of the plant from continuing like doing that. So I'm just thinking like that's the only qualm that I would have, that the animal rights are any more valid than the rights of other creatures.
And I guess it depends on how widely you define creature, right?
Well, I
think most of us recognize, like 97% of Americans agree that cruelty to animals is not just wrong, but that it should be illegal. Like 97% of Americans say, yeah, lighting a cat's tail on fire has ethical implications and is wrong, whereas very few people are going to say that mowing your grass is morally problematic. Like, we understand intuitively that animals have the capacity to feel pain, and evolutionarily, they're more like us than they're unlike us. Plants don't have a capacity to feel pain, and it goes back to the discussion.
Yeah, I can actually see. If I may, for a second, during the process of farming Christmas trees, in order to create, they use two or three trees to generate all the seeds for all the plants. And in order to get these trees to produce enough seeds, they stick a knife into the tree and cut 3/4 of the way around. And this tricks the tree. This is the farmer's word. They actually use the word tricks. That's a loaded word in this conversation. But tricks the tree into thinking that it's going to die, and it produces a lot more pine cones